I used to think being agreeable was a career strategy. In London, it often is. Keep the client happy, keep the boss calm, keep the emails flowing. I'm Rachel, mid-30s, and for years I ran marketing operations at a mid-size high street retailer headquartered near Liverpool Street. We weren't a luxury house, just a reliable brand with stores from Croydon to Camden and a website that refused to behave during sales. By the time Pamela arrived, I'd been promoted to marketing manager. My remit was everything that didn't have a clear owner: web merchandising, store kits, monthly promo materials, agency coordination, analytics dashboards, and, crucially, the department budget. If someone needed a slide, I made it. If a vendor needed paying, I chased finance. If a store manager in Stratford didn't receive window clings, I found a courier. It wasn't glamour, it was scaffolding. Pamela, 40s, expensive haircut, American MBA, she mentioned every third sentence, joined as VP of Marketing and Sales. Rumor had it she was the fourth pick, parachuted in to reassure certain shareholders that we were getting strategic. She introduced herself with a smile that felt like a brand launch. "Rachel," she said in our first one-to-one, "I'm a big believer in empowerment. You're empowered to get things done." "That's already my job," I said. "Exactly," she said, pleased. "And I'll be the air cover." Air cover sounded good. Air cover became air only. She started coming in after 10, scheduling working lunches at places with booking deposits, and forwarding me every thread that contained a number. She spoke in tidy slogans. "We're not in the business of excuses. Speed is a feature. Let's elevate the brand." Meanwhile, I wrote briefs, fixed art files, and reconciled budgets line by line. 2 weeks in, she slid a folder across my desk. "The budget's over. Move some costs into next month." "We can't keep doing that," I said. "We'll end up with a hole in Q4. She leaned back. "I didn't say keep doing that. I said do that now." "This isn't how finance expects us to report. Finance expects results," she said. "You're smart. You'll figure it out." I did figure it out, how to keep us barely compliant while she burned cash on team alignment events. She insisted parties motivated the stores. Store managers told me privately they preferred enough staff and clear promos. On a Thursday, she wandered to my desk with a grin. "Booked a brand summit at a Shoreditch venue. It'll be iconic. Get invites out, design a logo lockup, budgets, flexible." "How flexible?" She tapped the folder. "Move it around." I kept my tone flat. "We have 3 live campaigns and a Black Friday calendar already in build. If we redirect funds, we'll cut into paid social and print. Print is old world," she said. "Besides, I've invited press." "You've invited press to an internal summit?" "Optics," she said, as if that closed the subject. "And book a saxophonist." Vibes, I didn't argue. I made a list. I always made lists. At home in Walthamstow, my husband, Tom, watched me edit a deck at 11 p.m. "You're doing 2 jobs," he said. "I'm doing 6, I said. "But it's fine." "It's not fine," he said. "You're knackered." "Your inbox sounds like a fruit machine." I laughed because he wasn't wrong. Then I checked Pamela's inbox. I had delegated access to keep approvals moving, and sent 3 from Pamela emails to stop 2 agencies from missing print slots. I told myself it was efficiency. It was also cover. A week later, Pamela pulled me into a meeting with merchandising and buying. She dismissed the promotional calendar we'd built with them. "Feels stale," she said. "Let's disrupt." "Disrupt what?" asked Malik from buying. "We've booked stock to the plan." She drew a triangle on the whiteboard. "Customer, brand, channel. We're over-indexing on price and under-indexing on story. New visuals. New agencies." "We already have 2 agencies," I said. "They know our audience." She smiled. "I know better agencies." She hired her friends. They promised breakthrough. They sent treatments heavy on adjectives and light on deliverables. I wrote more briefs to fill the gaps and tried to keep dates from slipping. In October, she asked me to present the Q4 budget. As I spoke, she nodded at the right beats, then cut in. "You're very process-driven, Rachel," she said to the room. "Love that. But we are going to rebalance to experiences. Memories drive retention. Retention is driven by fit, price, and fulfillment," I said. Our NPS drops when click and collect misfires. She raised an eyebrow. Let's not get lost in the weeds. Malik texted me under the table. She's going to spend the trade money, isn't she? I typed back. Already spent. I'm building a bridge to December. I slept badly. I started waking at 4, checking ad spend before the tube filled. My daughter asked why I drank grown-up coffee so early. I told her it made me fast. She said, like the fast fox from the book? I said yes, and felt like a liar. By early November, Pamela's summit had ballooned. She added a photo booth, floral arches, and heritage meets streetwear uniforms for staff who did not want uniforms. The invites said, bold new vision. The stores asked for extra shelf talkers. Logistics asked for lead times. Pamela asked for a red carpet. People love a red carpet, she said. People love clean stockrooms and accurate pricing, I said. She laughed like I'd made a joke. The morning of the event, she handed me an amended budget and a Sharpie. Move these, she said, tapping numbers she'd circled. We're reallocating. This is the 4th reallocation this month, I said. Then you're getting good at it, she said. I moved what I could without breaking the ledger. I documented the changes. I kept a clean copy of everything before her edits. I didn't call it insurance aloud. In my head, I did. After the event, she declared it a triumph. Energy, she said. Momentum. Web sales that weekend dipped because a category page failed to cache. I fixed it at 1 a.m. from my kitchen table while Tom made tea and said nothing. On Monday, Pamela stood in my doorway. I'm taking a client to lunch, she said. Draft a 3-year brand plan by EOD. Big vision, small words. That's not how 3-year plans work, I said. She winked. In this building, it is. I wrote the plan. She skimmed the top half and presented it to the CEO the next day, changing replatform in phases to replatform in Q1. IT laughed until they realized she was serious. My calendar filled with rescue work. Hers filled with relationship building. I started to feel something give, like a quiet thread tugging behind my sternum. Tom said, You need to slow down. I said, After peak. He said, You said that last year. He was right. I chose not to hear it. The first proper warning sign wasn't dramatic. It was a small fever I ignored because I had a deck to finish. Then chills I ignored because an agency sent assets in the wrong spec. Then a morning I stood up and the room tipped sideways. Call in, Tom said. I'll be fine, I said. I wasn't. 2 days later, I was in hospital with an infection that turned fast. The consultant said sepsis, and Tom went white. I remember the beeps, the cannula, the steady competence of NHS nurses who didn't care about brand pillars or rollouts. They cared that I kept breathing. Pamela sent flowers, her favorite lilies, signed from the leadership team. The card arrived before any text from her. In a quieter hour, old habits twitched. I picked up my phone. I checked my inbox. Then I checked Pamela's to file the florist receipt into the right finance folder when I returned. I found more than a receipt. What I found sat there at the top of her inbox, threads to friends, complaints about a manager who can't bounce back, a long exchange with an old colleague asking how to shore up holiday sales and protect the leadership narrative. Her colleague asked, Who actually runs the ops? Pamela replied, Rachel. She does most of it. The colleague wrote back, Then, if sales miss, position it as her mismanagement. Don't fire immediately. Medical leave, optics. You need grounds. Theft, misuse, something clean. I stared at the screen until it blurred. I took screenshots. I emailed them to my private account. I lay back and closed my eyes, the beeps steady and indifferent. I had spent years making other people look competent. Pamela was planning to make me look criminal. That was the day I stopped being agreeable. When I returned to the office, London felt louder. Not the city, the job. Conversations carried an edge I hadn't noticed before, a thrum beneath the normal noise. I walked in with a doctor's note and a thinner patience. Pamela stood from her glass desk as if we were close. Rachel, she said warmly, you look rested. I was in hospital, I said. She waved that off like a smudge. Yes, yes, but you're back and that's what matters. I've reflected. You've been carrying too much. So, I'm taking budget management off your plate. From now on, you'll drop invoices with accounting only. No budget discussions with finance. Centralized communication through me. Clear? Crystal, I said. She smiled, relieved I wasn't arguing. Brilliant. I knew you'd be a team player. I walked out and wrote everything she'd said in a notebook I kept in my top drawer. The one with dates, times, and the word verbatim underlined. I then opened the shared drive and checked every folder. All my files were there: budgets, decks, tracking sheets, vendor logs. I labeled them more clearly, not for Pamela's benefit, for mine. At 11, she pinged me. Pamela, please bring the December invoice stack to accounting before lunch. I'll reconcile with them later. Me, on it. I walked to her office to collect the folder. It was thinner than usual. She'd pulled key items out, likely to move costs without my eyes on it. I glanced up. Is this everything? It's everything you need, she said, already half turned back to her screen. Back at my desk, I added a few things to the folder that I definitely didn't need. The current clean budget, pre-Pamela edits. Copies of past months with her handwriting moving figures, the email where she'd suggested replacing me if I couldn't get with the program, and the screenshots from the hospital, the scapegoat plan, the instructions to find grounds. I walked to accounting on the second floor. Lois, senior accountant, 50s, precise, was pouring tea. Morning, I said. Morning, she said. You look better. Back on my feet, I said, and placed the folder on her desk. Pamela asked me to drop invoices only. She'll handle all budget queries. I'm not to discuss budget with you. Lois looked at the folder, then at me. Understood. Great, I said, keeping my voice neutral. I'll let her know I delivered these. She nodded once. I'll review. Back upstairs, Pamela was already orchestrating something else. She'd invited 2 new PR firms in for a chemistry session. Smile, she whispered before they entered. Let's project alignment. We need fewer agencies, not more, I whispered back. Abundance mindset, she said, and the door opened. The pitch was theater. Culture codes, earned reach. Story mining, Pamela purred. I asked about deliverables, measurable outcomes, fees tied to KPIs. One agency blinked like I'd spoken Greek. Pamela cut me off. We're not counting beans today, she said. We're building brand. After they left, she closed the door. You killed the vibe. I asked how much it costs and what we get. That's the job. My job is vision, she said. Yours is execution. Please don't conflate. I didn't bother to answer. I had already done my job for the day in accounting. 2 days later, finance scheduled a quick catch-up with Pamela. She swept past my desk in a perfume cloud. Don't wait up, she sang. She returned an hour later without singing. You dropped the wrong folder, she said at my door, voice tight. I dropped the invoices you gave me, I said. Her jaw worked. Going forward, check with me before you take anything to accounting. You told me not to discuss budget, I said. I didn't? I just delivered. She shut my door. Let me be plain. If you go around me again, we'll consider whether this role still suits you. I followed your instruction, I said. You put it in writing. She stared a beat too long, then flipped her hair and left. She spent the afternoon in her office with blinds half drawn, on the phone, voice low. I updated dashboards and waited. On Friday, HR blocked out 30 minutes with me and asked me to bring any relevant documentation. I arrived with a tidy stack, the notebook with quotes and dates, copies of budgets before/after, email printouts. The HR lead, Priya, listened without interrupting. When I finished, she said, "Thank you," in a way that sounded like more than politeness. After lunch, the CEO's PA asked if I could pop by the CEO's office at 4. I wasn't sure if I was being promoted or escorted out. Pamela went in at 3:30. She didn't come out at 4. She didn't come out at 5:30. At 5, Priya appeared at my desk. Do you have a minute? She asked. We walked to a meeting room. Priya closed the door. The CEO was there, sleeves rolled, tired. We owe you an apology, he said. We've reviewed material in finance and HR. The way you've been treated isn't acceptable. We've asked Pamela to leave the business, effective immediately. I swallowed. I'd imagined this moment in petty ways, me delivering a speech, everyone clapping. The reality was quiet. Okay, I said. You'll take a paid week off, he said. Non-negotiable. When you're back, we'll discuss resourcing properly and offloading some of the workload you've been carrying alone. Priya added, We're grateful you kept records. It helped us act quickly. On my way out, I saw a box on Pamela's chair and security waiting by the lift. It wasn't triumphant, it was clinical. London kept moving outside. The buses didn't pause for our drama, and that felt right. I went home early. Tom had fish fingers in the oven and a look that mixed relief and I told you so, but he didn't say it. We sat at the small kitchen table while our daughter drew a dragon with too many wings. What now? He asked. I take a week off, I said, surprised at my own answer. Doctor's orders, CEO's orders. Will you actually rest? He asked. I'll try, I said, and meant it for the first time. On Monday, I didn't open my laptop. I walked along the Lee with a coffee, watched a dog fail to catch a ball, and felt something unclench. I didn't feel powerful. I felt intact. When I returned the following week, there was no whisper campaign, no questions about loyalty. People just looked relieved the chaos might stop. Malik left a post-it on my monitor. Tea? I have gossip that isn't gossip. We laughed in the small, tired way of people who kept things running. I stayed another year. I documented processes, trained 2 hires, and insisted every campaign had a clear owner who wasn't me. When a recruiter called about a role at a fast-growing e-commerce brand near Old Street, proper engineering team, sane roadmaps, I said yes. On my last day, I took one final quiet precaution. I exported my personal notebook to PDF, time-stamped it, and emailed it to myself. Not out of paranoia, out of habit. I'd learned that memory alone isn't a system. Leaving the office, I walked past the ground-floor cafe where Pamela used to hold strategy coffees. The barista caught my eye and said, You're the one who always tipped. Guilty, I said. Good luck, he said. Thanks, I said, and meant that too. Years later, that habit of being precise, dates, receipts, clean copies, would pay me back one more time. London gives you reruns if you stay long enough, and sometimes the rerun is the punchline. When I came back from medical leave, I knew Pamela wouldn't wait long to tighten the noose. The city was gray, London drizzle tapping the office windows, but inside her office it was all theater. Rachel, she said, gesturing to the chair across from her desk. Let's be honest. You've been carrying too much. It's affecting your health. I can't have that on my conscience, I almost laughed. Conscience wasn't a muscle Pamela ever exercised. I appreciate your concern, I said, flat. Good. Then you'll agree it makes sense for me to take over budget management. From now on, you'll deliver invoices to accounting. Nothing more. No discussions, no reconciliations. Everything runs through me. She leaned forward. I'm serious, Rachel. If you go to finance about budgets, I'll consider it insubordination. Crystal clear, I said, making sure to keep my expression blank. Back at my desk, I opened the leather notebook I'd been keeping since hospital. I wrote down her words verbatim. Time, date, tone, evidence. By 11, she pinged me again. Pamela, bring the November invoices to accounting before lunch. The folder was thinner than usual. Too thin. I glanced through. Routine vendor bills, a couple of media invoices. Nothing about the summit she'd splurged on, she'd cherry-picked. I walked the stairs to accounting, folder under my arm, and stopped by Lois's desk. She was stirring sugar into her tea. Morning, Lois, I said, calm. Morning, Rachel. You look steadier trying to be, I said, placing the folder down. Pamela asked me to drop these off. She's the only one you're to speak to about budget matters, not me. Directly, her Lois's eyes flicked to the folder, then to me. Understood. Good, I said, letting a beat of silence hang. Then I left. She didn't know the folder contained more than invoices. I'd slipped in copies of untouched budgets, versions with Pamela's handwriting altering figures, an email where she'd threatened me, and screenshots of the scapegoat plan. It was a package, gift-wrapped in plausible deniability. 2 days later, Pamela marched into my office, voice pitched high. "You dropped the wrong folder." "I dropped what you gave me," I said. Her lips thinned. "Going forward, you clear everything with me first." "You told me not to talk to accounting," I said evenly. "I didn't. I just delivered." Her face froze. Then she shut the door and lowered her voice. "Let me be plain. If you undermine me again, we'll find someone else who can handle the role." I met her eyes. "That's your choice. But I followed your exact instruction." She stared, searching for a crack, then spun on her heel and left. That afternoon, I saw HR schedule a 30-minute check-in with me. The invite said, "Bring any relevant documentation." My pulse steadied. It was happening. When I walked into the HR room, Priya from HR and Lois were waiting. Priya gestured to the chair. "Rachel, thanks for coming. Do you have your notes?" I handed over a folder, clean, indexed, with a timeline, Pamela's edits, the scapegoat emails, even copies of budgets with her Sharpie instructions. Priya leafed through. "This is substantial," Lois added softly. "It matches what we found on our side." "Thank you," Priya said. "We'll be in touch soon." The next morning, Pamela came into the office in full peacock mode, heels clicking, coffee in hand, smile plastered. She breezed past my desk. "Big day," she said. "Leadership meeting at 11. Wish me luck I didn't." At 11, she went into the CEO's office. At 12, the blinds stayed shut. At 1, security appeared by reception. At 2, the whisper spread. Pamela had been terminated effective immediately. At 3, I was summoned to the same office. The CEO, sleeves rolled, sat with Priya. "Rachel," he said, "we owe you an apology. We've reviewed the evidence. What you endured is unacceptable." Priya added, "Your documentation helped us act decisively." The CEO leaned forward. "Pamela has been removed. We want you to take a week of paid leave, recharge. When you return, we'll resource the department properly." For the first time in years, I felt no weight on my chest. Just release. "Thank you," I said. As I left, I passed Pamela's office. The door was open, her desk stripped bare, a cardboard box half filled with frames and pins. Security stood by the lift. She wasn't there. She was gone. That evening, Tom poured me a glass of wine at home. "So?" he asked. "She's out," I said. He raised his glass. "About bloody time." Our daughter ran in with crayons, oblivious, asking if I could draw a castle. I sat on the floor with her, coloring towers, and realized I didn't need to explain. I had my win. The following week, I actually rested. Walks along the Thames, mornings without alarms, dinners without my phone buzzing. For once, I let the silence exist. But London is a city of reruns, and Pamela wasn't finished with me. Not yet. Years passed. After Bright Lane, I promised myself I'd never be the silent workhorse again. I joined a fast-growing e-commerce firm near Old Street. The pace was intense but different, structured, strategic. My new boss, Mike, was the kind of leader who asked questions, not just for show, but because he wanted the truth. Within 2 years, I was promoted to head of marketing operations. My remit was broad but manageable: campaigns, analytics, and a small team of my own. For the first time, I had authority, not just responsibility. I swore I'd use it better than Pamela ever did. One Tuesday afternoon, HR forwarded me a stack of resumes for a new campaign manager role. I spread them across my desk. Clean CVS, buzzwords, degrees from universities I half recognized. I scanned quickly, pen tapping. Then I froze. Pamela Larson. For a moment, I thought it had to be another Pamela. But no, the work history was there. Bright Lane Retail, Vice President of Marketing and Sales. My old nightmare in black and white. I leaned back, staring at the name. My heart didn't race the way I expected. It was steady, like I'd been waiting for this rerun. Out of grim curiosity, I read the CV. She'd listed achieved 87% sales growth during holiday season, under her achievements. I almost laughed. That was the season she nearly collapsed the company while I was in hospital fighting sepsis. Every bullet point claimed my work as hers. She'd turned my survival into her resume filler. Mike knocked on the doorframe. "How's the shortlist looking?" "Promising," I said, sliding Pamela's CV under the pile. "Anyone stand out?" he asked. "One or two," I said carefully. He grinned. "Good. We'll get interviews rolling next week." When he left, I pulled Pamela's application back into view. My cursor hovered over her name in the applicant portal. A single button sat there, disqualify. I remembered her words in that glass office years ago. "If you undermine me again, we'll find someone else who can handle the role." I remembered the Sharpie edits, the parties she funded with money meant for promotions, the emails calling me weak. I remembered waking up in hospital, pale and wired, while she plotted how to make me the scapegoat. I didn't hesitate. Click. Disqualified. It was such a small action, but it felt monumental. Quiet justice. A circle closed. For a moment, I let myself imagine the alternative. Pamela walking through our office doors, flashing that brittle smile, pretending history didn't exist. I pictured her trying to take credit for campaigns, trying to undermine me in front of my own team. Number. Not here. Not again. I shut her file, filed the rest, and went home early. That evening, over dinner, Tom asked, "Rough day?" "Strangely satisfying," I said. "An old ghost showed up." I sent her packing. He raised his glass. "To ghosts staying ghosts." Our daughter, older now, rolled her eyes. "Mom, you're weird." "Professional weird," I said, and we laughed. When I think back to that journey, from a people-pleaser who worked herself into sepsis to a leader who protected her team, it feels less like revenge and more like reclamation. I didn't need a dramatic showdown. I just needed that one click. Pamela will keep rewriting her story, job-hopping across London, embellishing numbers, chasing titles. But her story won't cross into mine again. Mine belongs to me now. If you've listened to this story until the end, you already know. Justice in the workplace may come slowly, but when it arrives, it's oh so sweet. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel, because every week we bring you new tales of office intrigue, revenge, and lessons from real life.